Winner take all. Key states hold primaries today in a critical test for remaining candidates.
Voting here in Ohio, duking it out for every last vote. I'm Jason Calvi in Steubenville, Ohio, the home of that famous Catholic university. We hear from the students and voters coming up.
Protecting unborn babies. Congress considers historic legislation to curb late-term abortions. And canonization for Mother Teresa. We now know when she'll officially be called a saint. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, March 15th, 2016. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. A handful of critical presidential primaries today could reshape the race for the White House. We have team coverage tonight. Jason Calvi is with the Kasich campaign in Ohio. We begin with Lauren Ashburn at our political desk here in Washington.
Brian, it's make or break day for the future of presidential campaigns. Voting is underway in 5 states, most importantly, Florida and Ohio. That's where the states are winner take all.
Can anyone stop Donald Trump? That's the question the billionaire's opponents are asking. He's already snagged 9 delegates today with his win in the Northern Mariana Islands. Polls in Florida, Illinois, Missouri, North Carolina, and Ohio are open. But it's not just the people weighing in. Some of the candidates, like Ohio Governor John Kasich, are out casting their ballots too.
Very exciting to come into Ohio and cast a vote for me for President of the United States.
Trump is leading in the polls in every state except Ohio.
Ohio is going to make America great again.
The latest polls show Florida Senator Marco Rubio behind in his home state, but still hoping for a surprise.
I hope that Americans will choose optimism over fear and hope over anger. And that's what we're going to offer them tomorrow and in the months to come.
Senator Ted Cruz, sitting second in delegates, is trying to win over Kasich and Rubio's supporters, betting the field could look a little different after Tuesday's results.
We welcome you with open arms because only one campaign has beaten Donald Trump.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is banking on continuing her southern streak and hoping to add her delegate count with wins in the Midwest.
I want people to turn out and vote in all of these contests today.
But Senator Bernie Sanders believes it's his message that will help pull off yet another upset.
In Ohio tomorrow.
In Governor John Kasich's home state of Ohio, the Real Clear Politics poll average has Trump and Kasich neck and neck, with Cruz in third place. On the Democratic side, Clinton is beating Sanders 51 to 43%. And in Rubio's home state of Florida, all of the polls show Trump is ahead. Predictions are there would have to be a historic turnout for Rubio to succeed, and Hillary Clinton is set to overtake Bernie Sanders. Ohio has 66 delegates. Now, in order for Kasich to stay viable, he has to win the state. We sent Jason Calvi on the campaign trail to ask about the important issues to voters in the Buckeye State. He joins us from Berea, southwest of Cleveland. Jason.
Lauren, this is the spot where Governor John Kasich hopes to celebrate a victory tonight in his home state. He has racked in the endorsement of the state's largest newspaper, the Plain Dealer. The state's largest religion is Catholicism, and today we met up with some Catholics in this battleground state. Starting this election day like they do every day, 6:30 in the morning at Franciscan University of Steubenville.
Let us give thanks to the Lord our God.
After Mass, we talk politics over pancakes.
I'm excited to use my vote and make my voice heard.
Freshman Jim Mello is voting for the very first time today.
And what issues are you looking at as you vote?
First and foremost, a strong pro-life record is really important to me, and then also how the candidates are going to approach the situation in the Middle East. With the genocide there and the ISIS.
At this school, known for allegiance to church teachings, students pointed to life again and again.
Definitely pro-life issues. Also looking at religious freedom issues.
This couple plans to serve in China after getting married this summer.
Pro-life is number one. I think that's the root of a lot of the problems in our country is our attitude towards how we treat the weakest members of society.
Down the street at a Steubenville polling place, we found voters emphasizing other issues. So who was it?
Trump.
Why?
Because I really believe he can turn this country around. I believe that he has negotiation skills.
So who'd you vote for today?
John Kasich.
Back at Franciscan?
I use the faith to guide how I see issues.
A lot to pray about. In this winner-take-all state of Ohio, Marco Rubio is urging his supporters here to do something called strategic voting. He's asking them to vote for Kasich. Another example is a Democrat Hillary Clinton supporter who today is voting for Kasich. Now, this could impact the final results tonight, all with the intention to derail the Trump train. Lauren?
Jason, let's go back to Kasich. He says he never thought of going negative, and he said today, quote, "I'm not going to let Donald Trump ruin my day." Now, do you think this quality of Kasich's, this positive quality, has influenced Kasich voters, or is it the policies that interest them the most?
We're definitely hearing both. We're hearing people that are interested in the policies of the governor, but we are also hearing at least one couple in the governor's hometown who said they were voting for him because of his integrity. But I should add, Lauren, that the governor himself says after today he will have some difficult things to say about Trump, but Lauren, he says it's not meant to be negative.
Constructive criticism, we'll call it. Thank you, Jason.
Right.
We have more political coverage coming up, including a discussion about the future of the presidential race with two top journalists. Brian.
Meanwhile, other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. A Senate committee hears testimony today on two pro-life bills. Catherine Szeltner was there for this debate on science and human rights.
If a baby can't be operated on to save its life without anesthesia, should we allow abortion for any reason?
A question posed to an all-female panel at today's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on two pro-life bills. The Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act would ban abortion on demand for women 20 or more weeks pregnant. And the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act would provide medical care for babies who survive abortions, an experience all too real for one witness.
I was supposed to be delivered as a successful abortion, a deceased child. But quite clearly, I was born alive that day.
Melissa Oden believes fellow abortion survivors should be treated as hospital patients, a view not shared by all who testified.
So just to be clear, nobody disagrees that a child born alive should get all available medical care for survival.
I do disagree that I can imagine situations where the doctors and nurses have decided that there's not a point in medical intervention.
I wasn't expected to live, but yet nurses fought for medical care to be provided to me. I don't know how anybody can turn to me and say, it's complicated.
The other debate centered on science and whether or not babies feel pain at 20 weeks.
There was not one doctor here to suggest otherwise. The only person who suggested otherwise wasn't a doctor.
The U.S. is one of 7 nations to allow elective abortions past 20 weeks. Senator David Vitter, a sponsor of the 20-week ban, tells me the bill's requests are reasonable. He believes there is opportunity for bipartisan support. Brian.
Powerful testimony. Thank you, Catherine. Irish Prime Minister Enda Kenny is visiting the White House today. He discussed trade and the ongoing British referendum with President Obama. White House correspondent Lauren Ashburn asked Kenny about his plans to defend life.
Do you plan to expand abortion rights?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Zero Barton, final question. Zero Barton, final question.
We refer to the 8th Amendment.
The Prime Minister is referring to Ireland's 8th Amendment to its constitution. It states the unborn have equal rights to that of the mother, effectively banning abortion in Ireland. In 2013, Ireland began allowing abortion if a mother's life is in danger. The local bishop says the University of Notre Dame should not give Vice President Joe Biden its top award. Bishop Kevin Rhodes of the Fort Wayne South Bend Diocese says it sends the wrong message. He says a politician can't support abortion and redefining marriage and still be considered a good Catholic. Notre Dame announced March 5th it would award the Laetare Medal to Biden and former Speaker of the House John Boehner. Notre Dame President Father John Jenkins says the university is not endorsing the public positions of either man. The U.S. House unanimously approves a resolution condemning ISIS atrocities in the Middle East. It calls attacks against Christians and other religious and ethnic minorities genocide, ratcheting up the pressure on the Obama administration. The State Department faces a Thursday deadline to decide on a genocide declaration. Nebraska Representative Jeff Fortenberry, who introduced the resolution, joins us from Capitol Hill. Jeff, the resolution is unbinding. Will it really make a difference?
It might be unbinding, but it's a clear declaration of a fact. What is happening in the Middle East is a genocide. There's a systematic attempt to exterminate Christians, Yazidis, and other faith groups by ISIL. This is not only a grave injustice to the people there, it's an assault on human dignity, and it's a threat to civilization itself. So what the resolution does is confront really the scandal of silence, the scandal of indifference, and we're hopeful that this raises international consciousness and creates the preconditions in which these ancient faith traditions, once there is a security settlement, can be reintegrated back into the communities that are rightfully theirs.
You have one of the highest concentrations of Yazidis in your home district. What do you know about their situation and how it compares with Christians?
The Yazidis came to America, many of whom were translators for our troops during the height of the Iraq War, and because of their special status and the threats that they were under, they were given citizenship. Interestingly, many settled in my hometown of Lincoln, Nebraska. Wonderful, peace-loving community that is integrated very well into the culture back home and is making a contribution to the diversity of life. They are under grave threat as well. You remember a year and a half ago, ISIS was coming at the core of the community in the Nineveh Plain. Thousands of women and children were trapped on Mount Sinjar. The administration acted. There were airstrikes that prevented the slaughter of these people, but they are as well a target for ISIS's barbaric attempt to exterminate them. It's a genocide against the Yazidis as well.
Do you expect the State Department to issue this genocide declaration?
I know that Secretary Kerry has sympathies in this regard. We're hopeful that the State Department, after it does review its facts, and by law they are to rule by this Thursday, makes the right decision.
Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, thanks for joining us tonight.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
And then later we speak with 2 Iraqi priests, including one who is actually held by ISIS, held in captivity. The White House won't say if President Obama supports a genocide declaration. For the 4th time this year, Lauren Ashburn pressed the administration on this topic. She asked if the president had talked to Secretary Kerry about the decision.
The president is obviously aware that the State Department is engaged in this effort, but I can tell you that the president doesn't take this sort of legal determination lightly.
When asked if a decision would come by March 17th, the deadline imposed by Congress, the White House punted to the State Department. A spokesman there says it will be soon. Pope Francis announces Mother Teresa of Calcutta will be canonized at the Vatican September 4th. He's also approved sainthood for 4 others.
Beata Teresa di Calcutta Dio Quarto.
The announcement coming today during a meeting of cardinals in the Vatican. Mother Teresa is known for her work among the poorest of the poor. She died on September 5, 1997, at age 87. Her missionaries of charity run hundreds of orphanages, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and clinics worldwide. Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for EWTN's Catholic News Agency, joining us from Rome tonight. Alan, we all know and love Mother Teresa. Tell us about the others, beginning with Blessed Maria Hesselblad of Sweden.
Well, she was actually from Sweden, born and raised there as a Lutheran. She moved to the United States when she was about 17 years old, got sick, made a promise that if she would heal, she would go on and do great things for the faith. She met a Jesuit while she was sick who converted her to the Catholic faith, and in the end she moved here to Rome and she started a new branch of the Brigittine order. These are sisters that are across the Scandinavia today and also other parts of Europe and the world. They specialize in ecumenism and try and bring unity to all Christians.
During his recent visit to Mexico, the Holy Father visited the remains of one of the other blesseds to be canonized, Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio. Tell us about him.
Brian, he was just a young man. He was only 14 years old. He was part of the Cristeros movement, which was a movement of Catholics in Mexico in the 1920s. He was picked up by the government troops who were anti-religion, and he was killed by them in a terrible process of torture. He died yelling, "Long live Christ the King and long live Our Lady of Guadalupe." There's a movie for Greater Glory that came out that had him as a protagonist just in the last couple of years.
And Alan, tell us about the first Argentine saint. They called him the Gaucho Priest.
Yeah, Brian, Gaucho Priest, or Cowboy Priest. This is a man who is known for his simplicity and humility. He would go out to visit people in the large expanses of the Argentine plains, and he was so close to them, so close to the poor and the suffering, they actually contracted leprosy by sharing tea with them. This tea is called mate, something Pope Francis shares with pilgrims here in St. Peter's Square often. Pope Francis also calls him a street priest, something that Pope Francis calls himself.
Alan Holdren, thanks for joining us from Rome tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
And the fifth new saint is from Poland, Blessed Stanislaus of Jesus and Mary. She founded the Marians of the Immaculate Conception. Coming up, what went wrong? Congress seeks answers in the Flint, Michigan water crisis. And political fallout, the latest on the presidential candidates and their path to nomination. Give yourself fully to God. He will use you to accomplish great things on the condition that you believe much more in His love than in your own weakness. A quote from blessed, soon-to-be saint, Mother Teresa. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday evening. I'm Brian Patrick. Former city, state, and federal officials blame one another for the ongoing water crisis in Flint, Michigan. House Republicans and Democrats say there's plenty of blame to go around. Wyatt Goolsby has more on today's Capitol Hill testimony.
This is where you're fundamentally and totally wrong, Ms. Hedman. You still don't get it. You still don't get it, and neither does the EPA administrator. You screwed up, and you messed up people's lives.
Things got heated on Capitol Hill this morning between lawmakers and the woman who resigned her post at the EPA at the height of the Flint water crisis.
I just wish you were at the EPA so I could call on you to be fired, because you should have never been in this position.
Republicans like Utah's Jason Chaffetz and Michigan's Tim Walberg grilled Susan Hedman. They blamed the federal government agency for not doing enough, while Democrats are pointing the finger at Michigan's Republican governor. Both sides challenged the former city emergency manager for failing to act.
And in the midst of all of this crisis, I must tell you that I believe that I have been unjustly persecuted, vilified and smeared, both personally and professionally.
The problem started when Flint switched its water source from Detroit's water system to the Flint River in 2014 to save money. But the river water was not treated properly, and lead from aging pipes leaked into Flint homes and businesses. Flint residents we talked to in Washington today say their families continue to suffer.
My daughter and my husband are both lead poisoned. My oldest daughter is 21, had Legionnaires last fall from our own bathroom.
That's the scary thing, is that, there's the response by the state hasn't been enough. Bottled water doesn't take care of bathing, so you're knowingly poisoning yourself.
We are expecting residents from Flint to be back in Washington, D.C. this Thursday. That's when Michigan Governor Rick Snyder will testify on the Hill. He's expected to get some tough questions from both Republicans and Democrats. Brian?
Thank you, Wyatt Goolsby. We go back now to Lauren Ashburn and some guests at our political desk for more on today's critical presidential primaries. Lauren?
Brian, Melinda Henneberger is editor-in-chief at Roll Call. Cate Martel is national politics reporter at The Hill. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks.
Melinda, let's start with you. In Florida, it's going to be Marco Rubio's to lose, and he is down by a lot in the polls. Why is he losing his home state?
Well, we have an interesting piece in Roll Call tomorrow, if I do say, that reports that a lot of Floridians didn't mind the reports that Marco Rubio was never here or was rarely here for votes in the Senate, but they minded a lot when they didn't see him over the course of his Senate term, that they haven't seen him. The mayor of Tampa had literally never met the man.
Wow. That says something, and says something about why they might be voting the way that they are. Cate, in Ohio, there are 66 delegates up for grabs. What happens if the governor loses? What happens if John Kasich loses? Is he out?
John Kasich loses, it's really hard to find the path to the nomination for him at this point. It's a make or break state for him, just like it is Marco Rubio in Florida. But to go off to your point, I think what's interesting, the difference between Florida and Ohio is that in Ohio, John Kasich has a better chance of winning. There's more of a hometown feel. He's won several elections as a state senator, a congressman, and a governor. Well, Marco Rubio, on the other hand, has only won one election as a senator.
Right, and we heard earlier from Jason Calvi, who is in Berea, that people have a good feeling about Kasich. The Cleveland Plain Dealer endorsed him, for example. Okay, Melinda, what happens if Trump takes both of these states?
I don't know that Trump's going to take both of these states. If he does, it's essentially over. But if he does not, if Kasich does prevail in Ohio, then we have a potentially very interesting situation, especially if the results are murky in a few of the other states. Then we really could have a brokered convention this summer.
And what happens on the Democrat side, Cate, if Hillary Clinton takes both Florida and Ohio, as well as the other states that are up for grabs today?
Well, if Hillary Clinton takes both of those states, it's almost to say it's over, and she's almost guaranteed the nomination at this point. She already has a delegate advantage and superdelegate advantage that it's going to be really hard to find a path to nomination for Bernie Sanders at this point. But that's hard to say at this point. Would Bernie Sanders drop out?
What do you think Bernie Sanders is going to do, and why, Melinda?
I don't think Bernie Sanders can drop out. I think his young, very charged up supporters would really be disappointed if he sort of came to them and said, oh, well, never mind. I think at this point for him, it's not necessarily about the nomination, or certainly not only about the nomination, and they really want him to stay in it regardless.
Yeah, that's true, but also at that point, too, it's hard to see spending all of this money at this point, what point would it be worth him staying in?
All right, Cate, we're going to have to leave it there. Cate Martel is national political reporter at The Hill. Melinda Henneberger, editor-in-chief at Roll Call.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Up next, persecution of Christians. Iraqi priests share their painful stories about the Middle East. Thanks for joining us for EWTN News Nightly. Ahead of President Obama's trip to Cuba, the administration loosens travel and currency rules. Americans can now take trips to Cuba on their own instead of with expensive group tours. Also, U.S. banks will be allowed to process Cuban government transactions that pass through the U.S. banking system. A ban on those transactions crippled Cuba's ability to buy and sell goods internationally. As the U.S. State Department ponders a declaration of genocide, the question remains, will Middle East Christians be included? Father Douglas Bazi is a former hostage of Islamic extremists. He's a pastor of the refugee camp in Erbil. Father Denkha Joola is with the Chaldean Archdiocese of Erbil. Father Douglas, since you already experienced this violence at the hands of terrorists, how does it help you to deal with those that you serve?
You know, as a Christian, actually, the Christianity is not... It's not supermarket. Should I select what I want and what I want? Should I left? You know, it's one package. Love it or leave it. Actually, my people and we decide to take all the package together. It's not just actually carry the cross, but to follow Jesus. What is actually helping me here? It is who I am to complain about our life. We have to continue. We don't have time actually for complaint. The only time we have is to showing that what's the difference between Christianity and others. I do respect others, but this is the Christianity. Take the pain, but actually say that we are actually under persecution, but we have to say, and we have to take it, and we have to pass it.
Father Denkha, what is your diocese able to do for these thousands of refugees?
Just imagine with me, in one day we receive 13,000 families of refugees in one day. So for that reason, we try our best to give those people what they want as a human. Those people, they face everything. They lost everything in the same time. They lost the houses. They lost everything. They have many people killed and kidnapped. And now we have many of them. They are live in the caravans, 18 months. Imagine with me, those people, they live in container. Caravan, that means a small container. In this container, in each container, we put just 8 or 9 persons together. They live together without privacy, without income, without anything.
They are totally deprived. Well, we appreciate the help that you're giving. Do you think that a genocide declaration by the U.S. State Department is going to make a difference, Father?
Yeah, sure. But let me first actually to thank the Bishop Conference, the Catholic of America, and also the Knights of Columbus, and of course to your channel to make, and also to all the parish priests, because I am parish priest, to remind people and to pray for us. Yes, it's make different because this will be the right step should be taken, because they have to say the truth. Without to say that declaration is as a genocide, that means we are not saying the truth.
Father Douglas, Father Denkha, thanks for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Patrick for the EWTN News Nightly team. Good night. God bless you.